everybody. It's Kyle Tolsman, and you're listening to the Against All Average podcast, episode number 2, the show where business owners and entrepreneurs come to learn the skills and mindsets to lead exceptional lives. Today, I'm joined by the one and only Jake Bay City Spurley. How you doing, Jake?
Good, Kyle. How are you, man?
Oh, not too bad. I'm excited to get on this call with Coach Reynoso here in a second, but you keep texting me all this nonsense about rockets. What's happening today?
Dude, you haven't heard? It's the first launch in many years of a U.S.-made rocket on U.S. soil built by a private company with SpaceX.
It's probably that crazy Elon Musk, isn't it?
It's got to be him. He's always up to crazy things. But I think it's a monumental day for the U.S., isn't it? Come on, let's get jacked about it.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm excited, but where are they going?
Probably the space station. Where else are they going to go? I guess they can
know.
go to Pluto or something, but
I think they're just going to tour the moon or something and come right back. hop in their Teslas and do some cookies and call it a day.
Quick trip.
Yeah, but that's awesome for the U.S. and I always like following Elon Musk. He's definitely one of those folks that gets attention. He does a lot of different things to get attention, and that gets Tesla a lot of attention. Sometimes good, sometimes bad, but he's always getting attention.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. So that's great. Before we get started, I'd like to thank our sponsor. When you need all things digital looking their best, call our friends at Fame Pro Services. Our friends will give you the above all average treatment with an awesome new website, custom graphics, social media management, and a full line of printing services. Fame, the trusted partner of the Against All Average podcast. All right, in today's episode, this week's episode number 2, you're listening to this as part of our launch. We have the amazing and multi-talented Ian Reynoso. Reynoso is a former Division I athlete, art and multimedia teacher, a head football and track and field coach, the head strength and conditioning coach, a business owner, and most importantly, a husband and father to 4 amazing kids. How you doing, Coach?
Hey, man. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be on this and get some stuff to talk about.
Awesome. We're glad to have you. And a lot of your experience comes from the classroom. It comes from competing in football, track, wrestling in high school. And a lot of this mindset that you use in your day-to-day life can be turned into business. And you've also started a business recently. So you're using some of those different things. So we're super excited to have you on. And we're constantly going to be going back and forth with your experiences and how they apply to leading a great life and also leading people and having a great business. So awesome. So let's start it off. Can you just talk a little bit about your background, where you grew up, and just a little bit about yourself so the crowd can get to know you?
Yeah, man, I appreciate it. Pretty much I was born and raised in Southern California. My parents met when they were in high school. Dad was a couple years older than my mom, and they got together. And when they had me, it was kind of a big deal in my family because I was like the first grandchild on my mom's side, the first nephew, the first baby. And so, like from the start, I had a ton of support. Now my family, I'm a multiracial individual. So my dad is Mexican and my mom is white. And culturally, I feel it was a crazy blessing because I was able to see really how two worlds function as I grew up. Because as I was one world together with my parents, my families and everything, there were still different ways that one family would do one thing, another family would do another. As I grew up, my life took different paths as my parents did. They ended up getting divorced when I was 5, and those kind of divisions grew a little bit more. As I was going back and forth between each world. And I remember, I was actually talking to my dad about this the other day. I remember very vividly, I was about like 4 years old or so. And my mom and dad would throw parties all the time, have friends over, family over and stuff. And I remember sitting there whether it's in my high chair or like on the couch or whatever, and just like watching people and watching my dad tell stories with his friends and everybody laughing, and watching my grandpa over here telling stories, and trying to like socially kind of read how everything was going on. And I developed that at a really young age, and I didn't really understand what it was until I got to college and started taking sociology classes. And I started realizing the science of how people interact and how people work and how people work as a culture and society. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I've been doing this my whole life. I've been watching teachers, I've been watching athletes, I've been watching business owners, I've been watching family members. And that was really kind of the snowball going down the hill that started my life on a path of becoming a teacher, becoming an athlete, and becoming a father, and so on.
And so you talk a little bit about it being a blessing to be multicultural and it's seeing all the different, I'm trying to find the words here, the different experiences that you would have. Talk about like, what's dad's side of the family like, and what's mom's side of the family like, and where do you lie now in bringing some of those cultural norms to your family?
It's fun, man. Like, so my mom's side of the family, my grandma's side is they immigrated from Denmark to I just found out this last week. Went to the East Coast, went down to Texas, and then made their way to Southern California in a city called Solvang. Really big in wine and stuff nowadays. But my family, my ancestors, literally founded this area of Solvang. So if you ever drive through it in wine country, that's me. But they founded that area, and my grandpa's family, my great grandpa Dean Mullins, they were cowboys, every sense of the word. Went from Texas, took the Oregon Trail up to Washington, settled right outside of Pullman, had about 500 and something acres that they farmed up there. Met my grandma, and they worked their way down to Santa Barbara. And in Santa Barbara, my great grandpa, to the day he died, was a polo teacher and worked with horses and was a metalsmith. So he made jewelry, he made belt buckles. He taught celebrities, Sylvester Stallone, Ronald Reagan, all these people how to play polo on polo ponies. Wow. And so that side of the family, it was my whole upbringing was about, hey, like, life is hard. If you work for it, you can be successful, and you can find passion and love doing whatever you want to do. Translated down to my grandpa, who was an engineer. He worked for years and years at a place called Hermetic Seal, where I remember where my big bragging point when I was a little kid was my grandpa designed and helped make the little mechanisms that were in the B-52, B-42 bombers, stealth bombers, that helped them get off radars. So he was a wake up in the morning, go to work, come home, be with his family type of guy, but so dedicated to his family. And my nanny, his wife, who helped raise me when my mom and dad got divorced, my mom would drop me off at her house at like 6 in the morning, and I'd cuddle up and Mr. Rogers would be on TV, and she'd have coffee cooking in the kitchen, and my mom would take off. My grandpa would go to work, my grandpa would go to work, and she'd take care of me, and then I'd go to school down the street, and that kind of love and support was always there. There were obviously ups and downs and stuff throughout our family, but getting together every Sunday. Every Sunday, football would be on TV. We'd go to Nancy Grant's house. We'd have a barbecue. We'd have food. We'd have family time. My aunt would be there with her husband and her kids, my mom and I, and my nanny Gramps would be there. On the other side, my dad, a very strong cultural Mexican family. I would say my family did not come to the America from Mexico. My family was in Southern California when it was Mexico. And when it got taken over, they just stayed. And so as, world would go and people would develop, I remember I was frustrated when I was a little kid because I didn't know Spanish. And my dad was like, well, Grandma and Grandpa never taught us Spanish. I'm like, but you all speak Spanish all the time. It's like, yeah, well, we picked it up because they spoke Spanish in the house, so we learned what it was. But he goes, I remember asking my dad when I was younger, he goes, no, like, we're American, we speak English, like, this is the way it's going to be. but they all were fluent Spanish. So we were the first ones that weren't my generation. But my grandpa was like my grandson on my other side, hard working man. My grandma dropped out of school when she was 13 because her mom passed away, and she had 7 siblings. So when she dropped out to become a mom, to take care of her family and to raise her siblings and make sure that her brothers were on the right track to have jobs to support their families, and that her sisters were going to finish their education, and they were going to find husbands, and they were going to be able to provide for their families and be the matriarchs and do that. And as she grew up and she had her kids, my dad has 5 other siblings, so 6 in their family. She was always the one she was the iron rod. She was disciplinarian. She was the one who provided for everybody. But in the same vein, when my dad's siblings went down the wrong road and their kids need to be taken care of, she would take in the grandkids, and she would help raise them, and she would help kind of get them going in life. And having where it comes in with me was really awesome, because growing up, I always felt visually that I associated them as a Mexican, because I was dark skinned, had dark eyes, had dark hair. Now, granted, I was like 6'4" and 300 pounds, which is not a stereotypical Hispanic trait. Right. But that's always what I associated with. But I had a strong foundation in this Danish-Irish culture as well. So I always felt like it was a huge positive, because it's kind of like being somebody who is multilingual and who can associate and work with different social groups. And I think that really kind of helped me who I am. So now I do my best to incorporate who I am to my kids. We do all different types of cultural things. We and my wife and I celebrate Dia de los Muertos at the end of October. My family at Christmas time, we dance around the Christmas tree, which is a huge Danish tradition that I've done for years. We sing Nu Har Vi Julegaven, which is a Danish Christmas song. We sing Hans Believe, which is a cheer song, a Danish song. So, I mean, I try to incorporate all of it to my kids, because I have a son who's dark hair, dark eyes, dark skin like me, and I have a daughter who's blonde hair, blue eyes, and light skin like my mom. And so I got to let them know that, hey, as you grow up, like, you are Mexican, you are Danish, you are a Reynoso, and that's what you got to represent.
That is just an awesome way to for all of our listeners to kind of hear where you come from and the different sides of the family. What's cool, and I didn't know this, that your mother was Danish, but my grandmother on my mom's side came over from Denmark in World War II.
Wow.
Because my grandpa was in the army at that time and went over there and met her and eventually brought her back. So you talk about the smorgasbords and all the songs and singing around the Christmas tree and everything like that. That just makes me light up. And it's one of those things, as kids, we just thought it was so fun because it was all the cousins together, and we never really got together as much as we would like to, but we were always there at Christmas. Like, that was fundamental. Like, you do not miss the smorgasbord. You might miss a course because you're playing outside, but like, you don't miss the whole thing because it's such a amazing experience in the culture. And my grandmother was always trying to teach us all the different songs and everything like that. And it's just something that I always love doing and I always remember. And it's definitely part of our culture. So a lot of times families don't celebrate their native cultures, so to speak, as much as we do. So that's an awesome way to put it. And now we have another connection as far as we're both Danish. I had no freaking clue. I mean, that's absolutely amazing.
Don't I look like a blonde-haired, blue-eyed Dane?
Yeah, Reynoso is Danish, right? Yeah. Living on lies.
Oh man, my nanny, my mom's mom, and she had me brainwashed. I mean, to the point where it was. I mean, I think it was 4th grade, and we had to do our nation project, and the teacher says, "Well, if anybody would like to do a specific country," and I shot my hand up. I want to do Denmark. And they're like, what? Okay. she had me to the point too, saying that when I got older and when I passed away, I wanted my ashes spread over the hills of Denmark. It's funny, man, but she is to this day just a diehard Dane through and through, and she taught herself Danish at 50. Started taking her own classes, started getting the Danish newspaper in Southern California, and yeah, it's been phenomenal.
This is the true indicator. Does she have the Danish flag on her bumper of her car?
She had what's it called? License plate rim that said "Nan is a darling Dane." For sure.
Oh, that's so awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Let's keep this thing moving. We could talk family. It's such a big part of your life, and that's what I love about you and your family. But let's move along. What were some of the ups and downs in your life until you got into high school, and how did they shape you as a person?
I think, man, like, one of the things that I try to do as a teacher and as a coach and as a father especially is I need to be transparent, and I want to talk about, what has made me who I am, because if I don't, I think it nullifies the process. It taints kind of what has actually happened. You don't look at a sword when it's finished and be like, oh, cool, they took metal and they sanded it down and grinded it down and made a sword. No, you got to talk about the fire, you got to talk about the quenching, and you got to talk about the reshaping and the welding and the pounding and everything you got to do with it. So, when my parents got divorced when I was 5, it was rough for me, not really knowing what was going to happen, what was going on. I just knew that I was still with my dad and I was still with my mom. They had split custody. But then, as I got older and realized, like, okay, well, there's situations where my dad's like, we're moving out and living with his girlfriend. It's like, okay, cool. So I go there, and then I go to my mom's, and then, next week I go back and we're going to some other girlfriend's house. I was like, oh, okay. So we're staying here now. And, we bounced around to a couple different houses. We lived with my aunt, his sister, for a while. And my dad worked his butt off for years until they got divorced. He did drywall. He'd go into LA and he'd hang drywall and skyscrapers. I remember really vividly going to work with him when I was like 5. And he'd have me like snap the chalk lines, and he'd be hanging drywall, and I'd be sitting there watching him hang drywall and stuff like that. And then he hurt his back and went on workman's comp, and that kind of shot his life, unfortunately, because he realized, wow, it's really nice to get paid a bunch of money and not have to do anything. And the crazy thing is, on the other side, my mom was a claims adjuster. She did workman's comp for a living. Wow. And so she kind of had this inner demon going on. I'm like, well, no, that's not how it goes. Like, I handle guys like you on a regular, and you got to understand, like, you got to get back to work. You got to start doing this stuff. My mom, on the other hand, like, she just dedicated her life to me. She's worked hard every single day of her life. And she has literally done everything possible to give me the best life and opportunity that I ever had. She finagled her schedule in high school so she could have half days on Fridays, so she can come to my football games. She can do our football pregame dinners. She could be there. Her and my nanny would go down the street and get a sandwich after they do our pregame dinner, and then they go to the stadium early and watch us warm up and be there for our games. When I was blessed to go to college, she switched her schedule so she had Fridays off, so she could hop on a plane every Friday and fly to Eugene to watch us play, or fly to Oklahoma, or fly to wherever to make sure that she was at our game. So with that, there were still struggles. There were nights where we had our candlelight nights. My mom couldn't make bills, and our electricity got shut off. And so I'd come home, and she would, have a whole bunch of candles lit when it started getting dark. She'd go, we're going to read books tonight.
Right.
And I'm like, 11. I was like, okay, cool, Mom, let's go. We'd sit there and we'd read books, and wake up the next morning, and, the food was kind of warm in the fridge, and, we get it all done and come back that afternoon, electricity's back on, we're good to go. And, it's made that last day or so. But it was always me and her. It's still, now it's her, my family. I mean, she's still with us. She lives couple miles away here in Hillsboro and works at home, and she's here at the drop of a hat to be with us, to have dinner, to spend time, do that type of stuff. On the other hand, my dad had a lot of struggles. My dad was a drug addict. My dad didn't provide for me a lot financially, but he always provided for me emotionally. He was always there for me. He was always encouraging me. One of the life lessons my dad gave me, I remember one day I got to school. He took me to school like really late. It was like 10:30 or something like that. I got out of the car. I'm a big kid. I'm, in 7th grade. I'm probably like 5'8" or so, and like 220, 230 pounds. I'm the biggest kid in school. And I get out of the car and I kind of, all right, bye, Dad. I kind of walk like this and start walking to the campus. And there's nobody around, obviously. He rolls the window down. Hey, get back here. I kind of turn around. I go, what? He goes, what are you doing? Why are you walking like that? I go, what do you mean? He's like, why are you looking at the ground? You're Ian Reynoso. Get your head up. Hold your head up high. Walk around proud to be who you are. And I was like, oh, okay, love you, Dad. And it was the craziest thing ever, because that day I'm walking around campus and I'm walking with my head up. And I realized that I didn't look at anybody. Like, I'd walk around, look at my feet, because I got picked on. I got teased for being big and being fat and all sorts of stuff like that. And I remember like walking around, like looking at people in the eyes, and I'm like, I've been walking with my head down for years.
Wow.
That's crazy. And so at that point I said, okay, well, what can I be proud of? And to be honest, there wasn't a lot on my dad's side that we had come from that I was like, could be like, hey, well, this is better than you. And then on my mom's side, I had like historical things and stuff, but it was like, what should I be proud of? And from that point, I started thinking, okay, well, let's make something to be proud of. Let me try to start working harder at school. I was failing 6 out of my 7 classes in middle school. Like, I wasn't proud of my academics. Like, I was hanging out with bad kids and doing stupid stuff. Like, I wasn't proud of what I was doing. I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to hold my head up and be proud. Like, what am I going to be proud of? So at that moment, that really stuck with me. So it's those things that as a father now, I'm like, you know what, man, like, how with my 4 kids, my 12 to be 13-year-old son right now, I'm turning 13 in a week, how am I going to give them these life experiences without putting them through these life experiences? How am I going to have them to the point where they wake up in the morning and nobody's awake because, my dad's passed out in the back room or something like that. And I go to the refrigerator in the front, open the door, and there's no food. And I just hang out and watch TV for a couple hours. I don't want to put my son through that, but I got to tell him, like, this is what made me who I am. And so that's the point of being a coach, being a father, is taking these little negative things and putting the spin on them and make them like, no, you know what? Like, this is what made you who you are. This is the weightlifting exercises you did to give you the strength to be the person that you are right now.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you talk about kind of you didn't have anything to be proud of, and talk about how you kind of got into football. Like, was that an avenue for you to be proud of something? Because it seemed like football turned into such a bigger thing than just football for you. Kind of talk about how you got into football and how that kind of led you through to where you are now.
Yeah, like I played football one year, 2nd grade. I tried out. Or I didn't try. I played football. My dad had coached Pop Warrior teams with his brothers for years and years. My whole family played football in high school growing up. They wanted to go to they went to Brea Linda High School in Orange County, and so I grew up in the same area. I wanted to go to Brea Linda. I wanted to be a Wildcat. And so in 2nd grade, I played football, and I was kind of too big. Like, this is back before they had like black stripes and stuff like that. Like, hey, you got to be a certain weight or you can't play. And so my dad was one of the coaches. So I would weigh like 10 pounds over. My dad's like, oh, you made it by 2 pounds. He would kind of like write me in. And I don't remember very much from that time. I remember like doing push-ups at practice at night and like stuff like that. I don't remember like skiing, or I don't remember what positions I was lineman, but I remember like what I was doing at all. But I remember at the end of it, they're like, okay, well, we found out that you're a big kid and you shouldn't be playing with the 3rd graders this next year, so we want you to play with the 5th graders. And I was like, nah, man, they got like mustaches and stuff. I'll play with the 5th graders. So I stopped playing football. And I did other things. But I always wanted to play football. And so when we got into middle school, my mom moved, and we moved away from Brea. And I went to this other place, and I was like, no, I'm not going to be a Wildcat. I want to play for Brea. I want to do this and that. And so I go over to my first football camp, and this is a place called Los Alamitos, who has produced 20-some NFL football players and had won championships. And I was like, oh, I guess this works. You guys are kind of good. And so I remember that the first day of practice, I go out and over my freshman year. I remember it was the first time I weighed myself. So I went to got my physical, and I was 5'11", 276 pounds. I was by far the biggest kid on the team. And I'm like, hey, you know what? Like, I grew up watching Steve Young, Joe Montana, and all these guys, and I'm going to be a quarterback. And so I get out on the football field. They spread everybody out. And my dad's the guy who's like, hey, so like me on the what position you want to play? So I want to be a quarterback, but I'm kind of bigger than everybody. Go to quarterback then. Be the best quarterback you can be. And I'm like, okay, yeah. So I go out and I'm dropping back. I'm slinging balls and I'm killing it. I'm like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to be a quarterback. And second day of practice, after 2 days of practice, second day of practice is done. We're tired. We're on a team. We're so vividly. It's hot, dry. Coach Brody, one of my favorite coaches ever, who passed away a couple of years ago, goes, you know what? Football's a fantastic sport. I remember this speech so vividly. Fantastic sport, and it's really you got to understand where you fit in the team. I'll use quarterbacks, for instance. If you're the biggest kid on the team, you're not going to be a quarterback. And every person on the team just snapped right at me. And I was like, thanks, coach. And he goes, you're going to be a lineman, and you're going to be a great lineman. But you got to realize where you fit in. And so next day I'm with the line. I didn't know what a lineman was. I'm with the OC line and stuff like that. But I was able to get confidence. Jay, going back to your question, man, like I got picked on like crazy. I had kids that were pinching my chest in high school and pulling my shirts up and slapping my stomach. And I hated PE because I had to take my shirt off and switch it out during PE class. Guys would mess with me. And so when I got to football, I was like, okay, well, if I hit these people, if I hit these kids, some of those kids are on my football team. If I hit these kids, like, it's legal. Like, I'm allowed to run full speed and hit these kids. Like, I can take a kid and push him on the ground and stay on him. Oh, okay, this is gonna be good. And I did it, and it changed my life, not because of the physicality of it, but I'm going on. But the thing was, I remember very vividly. My coach said, "Listen, if you're gonna be a football player, you're not gonna be a nonsense kid." When I was in 8th grade, our athletic director, who's head football coach, came to the middle school, talked to kids, and say, "Hey, these are the sports that we have available and stuff." And I was a bad kid. I was doing drugs. I was hanging out with bad people, and I was like kind of I was really introverted. And my coach the coach at the time was talking to all of us. He got done. I walk up to him and I go, "Hey, coach, I just want to shake my hand and introduce myself. My name's Ian Reynoso." I don't know why. I never would have ever done that, but I did. And he shakes my hand, kind of looks up at me because I was big. He goes, "I know who you are." And I was like, "What?" And he goes, "But I know that you've been struggling in school, right? So if you want to play football next year, you can go to summer school." So I've been to summer school 3 years leading up to this, like every year. And he goes, "You can't go to summer school." I said, "All right, coach." 3 months later, I get a handwritten letter from him mailed to my house saying, "Hey, Ian, it's Coach Barnes. Just want to check in and make sure you're doing all right. Looking forward to you coming out for football next year." And that was it. Like, I got my grades up. I was like a 2.2 or something like that. But I talked to my counselor, and she's like, "Well, you don't have to do summer school this year, so have a good summer." I was like, "I'm going on to high school? Like, y'all passed me?" I'm like, "Oh my God, like, it's crazy." And then my summer was off, so I go to camp. And I went on to camp, man. My coach, our coaches, the freshman coaches said, "You miss practice? If you miss school, you can't practice that day. If you miss practice, you can't play in the game on Friday." And I was always missing school. I was always late to school. My dad there's days where I'd wake up and I'd be like, "Dad, I'm tired." He'd say, "Hey, go back to sleep." And I just missed school for that day. So I made a decision at 14 years old that I was going to move with my mom. Because if I lived with my mom, I'd get to school every day. I got to school every day, then I go to practice, and if I got to practice, I got to go play games. And so, end of the first trimester, they do an announcement. Oh, we'd like to congratulate our 3 perfect attendance winners for this fall. These 2 kids and Ian Reynoso. And I was like, I made every day in school? Oh my God, this is crazy. And that kind of set those standards that, changed my life.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess let's fast forward a little bit. You went through the high school program, had great coaches. It really changed your life besides just being a great athlete. Let's talk a little bit about playing college football, being on the scout team, getting reps, and kind of how that shaped even further, and kind of that whole experience of being a D1 athlete.
It's fun, man. Kellen Clemens was a quarterback at Oregon. Came in with me when I was there, and I just reached out to him a couple of weeks ago. We've been going back and forth on the phone and stuff, and we kind of reliving those memories. And I just remember very vividly, man, walking out there, and we get to the first day of practice. This is one of the defining moments of my career. We got the first day of practice. We got O-line coach and D-line coach together, Coach Zoom, Coach Graywood, and there's 3 offensive linemen and 4 defensive linemen. We're all together because all the older guys aren't at practice yet. We did a couple days before to kind of get us used to it before they showed up. So we go out and we're doing these drills. And I'm like, okay, it's kind of hard. And then we go over here, we do these footwork drills. And I'm doing the footwork drills, and I'm like, man, I'm gassed. But I always have been told in high school, don't show your weakness. In wrestling, we learned it. In football, we learned, if you show you're tired, your opponent's going to knock you out. And so I would train myself, because I was always tired, train myself to stand up and look straight and get kind of mean, and kind of control myself. So we're going through our ropes. Kind of go like this, and I got this dude, a really good buddy of mine, was the #1 defensive tackle on the West Coast from Compton Dominguez High School. And he goes, oh, coach, I hurt my ankle. I'm out. I can't do it. And I'm like, oh, he's gassed. Okay. So he kind of sits out. Footwork. And then the guy, oh, coach, my hamstring, my leg's cramping. And I'm like, oh, these guys are dropping out. And that fueled the fire, man. And I remember we finished about 3 drills, and I'm looking up, and my eyes are crossing, and I'm looking dizzy, but I'm looking at my O-line coach, and my hands on my hips, like, what next, coach? And I look around, and it's me and this kid from BC, from Canada, and everybody else is on the side, tired, throwing up, stretching, whatever. And he goes, we're good. Let's go to the next drill. And I was like, bring it on, let's go. Then the vet showed up and beat the crap out of me for a year. But I think going back to what you said, is that, if you can go into a situation like that, knowing that you are good, you're there for a reason. Have the confidence. Hey, you're a Division I athlete, but you're not as good as the guys that are there. And if you're better than them, so be it. But there's somebody who's going to catch you. There's somebody who's going to beat you. There's somebody who's going to catch you at one point when you're not looking, knock you flat on your back and stand over you and say, pick it up. And you're going to have to pick it up. And so, I took my lumps for a year, did scout team for that first year. And then the next year, hard work in the off season was kind of where I thrive. I love the off season. I love being able to lift weights, build, and get stronger and more explosive, and rebuild my body. So going into my redshirt freshman year, got some playing time. And then my sophomore year, I was ready to be a guy that can kind of step in a little bit. I was behind a guard who was a freshman All-American. His sophomore year had torn apart his knee, played the whole year without an MCL. Without an ACL in his knee, and then ended up, we were #2 in the nation that year. He was phenomenal dude. So I was like, okay, I'll learn from him. The Thursday before our first game, he blows out his knee again. His career's done. And so I'm like, let's go. I'm like, okay, I'm ready. I'm ready to start my sophomore year. I'm going to go start now. We're going to Mississippi State. We're going to play Tommy Kelly, who's an NFL draft prospect. I'm ready to get it. And we get off the plane, and my coach had moved our left tackle to right guard, which is my position, and had put our second string left tackle in instead of me. And I was furious. I was so mad. I'm like, this is my spot. I've been playing this spot for 2 years now. Like, I'm going to hold this down for my boy Joey who got hurt. Like, give me this job. And I got some plays, and I did all right. And then the next week, we play Arizona, and I start. And I balled out. I had one of the highest graded sessions out of a first-time starter because he kept all those stats. And the next week, we played Michigan. It was number 2 in the nation. We were like 25th or something like that. And he gave me the start against Michigan. And we ended up having a great game. We won 31-27 on the cover of Sports Illustrated. I'm kind of there, but I'm under our quarterback's armpit. Kind of my Mike Wazowski moment. Like, you see my number, but you didn't see like the rest of me.
Such an amazing game.
But I remember, like, looking back at it, I'm like, that's why I didn't start at Mississippi State. My coach knew, and he told me this years later. He goes, I knew we needed you to start against Michigan because we needed to have our guy who replaced you at left tackle. But I wasn't going to throw you in game 1. I was going to let you get your feet wet in game 1. And then I was going to start you against Arizona because they weren't great at the time. So if we can get you that confidence against Arizona, then you can go play against Michigan. It was all psychological. And I remember at that moment, I was like, "Ooh, there's a lot more going on here than just running a trap and kicking somebody out and being successful on a play." So at that point, man, I knew that was another level. Like, that was another level of football that I was really excited to kind of start getting into.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I mean, I think it goes so much further than just the sport, right? The sport is the train, right? And everything that encompasses it, what it taught you, like confidence has just been something that you'll never forget and shaped you as a person. But football's been such a big part of your life. I'd say, since what was it, second grade, all the way until going through college. How was that transition between kind of college D1 athlete into, knowing, all right, NFL may not be an option, kind of starting your professional career?
I think the biggest thing was who my mentors were along the line. You listen to, you watch the Last Dance special on ESPN, and how Michael Jordan just raves about Dean Smith, and it's about how he built their program and how he kept them on run a tight ship and all that stuff. And I remember my recruiting class was getting recruited by Arizona State. Phenomenal coach, O-line coach down there. We're talking on the phone, and I had an offer from them. He goes, "Hey man, I need you to sign on the line." He goes, I asked him, what's your plan for me? He goes, get some playing time as a true freshman. Sophomore year, you got a spot. My senior's gone. It's your turn. You start in that spot for 2 years. And the junior year, I'm getting you to the league, man. I was like, oh, that sounds like a lot that you can't really control. I'm like, okay, cool. I call Oregon, Neil Zambukos, little old Greek man. I mean, you look at the dude, there's no way he's an O-line coach. And I ask him, and he goes, well, you're going to redshirt, because I hardly ever let my true freshman play offensive line, play as a true freshman. So you're going to redshirt, you're going to get a year under your belt. Hopefully get some reps as a redshirt freshman. And then by your sophomore year, you'll have a chance to earn a starting spot. And I go, okay, cool. What about, at the end when I'm done, and, NFL? He goes, I don't have control over that. He goes, I control you while you're here, and I'm going to build you as best I can. But when it comes to that next level, it's up to you. And just that reality was really, really refreshing, which is why I decided to go there. But I remember when the time came to try the whole NFL route and stuff like that, I had been projected as a late draft pick or whatever, but my body was so beat up. And at that point, I'd been married. I got married going into my senior year of college. So my whole senior year, my wife and I were married. She was a javelin thrower of the track team. I was a football player. And so it was kind of like marriage with training wheels. We were married, but I was on full scholarship. She was on full scholarship. We didn't need jobs. We didn't need anything. We just got to go to class, hang out at home, and kind of be with each other's athletics. But at that point, I was like, you know what? I'm ready to start a family. I'm ready to do this stuff, and I'm ready to hopefully take my knowledge to other people. And so I had that mindset because of my coach, because of Coach Zambukos, because he was always talking about being being a student and learning, and then being a teacher and educating other people. Probably would have been a different spin if I was somewhere else. If I was in Arizona State or Oregon State or Nebraska or some of the other schools that recruited me.
Yeah. What so I guess after college life, you're a teacher now. How does that kind of play into it, and how you got from college to, now your professional career as a teacher, as a head coach? I guess kind of talk about where you're at now with that.
When I was in middle school, I had a teacher. Sorry, when I was in high school, I had a teacher named Dr. Cross, who was phenomenal. Just to this day, is one of the most revered teachers in my high school's history. My high school was a National Blue Ribbon Award winner. I mean, like one of the top high schools in the nation and stuff. So I got to brag. My high school was legit. But Dr. Cross was phenomenal. I remember sitting in his class, and I didn't want to be a teacher. Like, I was trying to get through school. But I remember sitting in his class and looking at it and be like, you know what, man, if I ever become a teacher, I want to be like him. Like that's the way you do it. And one of the main reasons that he was so good at what he did, he'd openly tell us that he loved us. Like, and we believed it. Like, we knew it. We knew when we walked into his classroom, like, he was going to care for us as he taught us. And so when I got done with school, I majored in fine arts, was a graphic design or multimedia design major. And I decided, like, hey, I'm going to start getting into, like, advertising, design world. I'm going to go mix it up, try to make logos, do this type of stuff. And I realized that I wasn't really prepared for it yet because the program at U of O was so early. And I went and met with a company in Portland, a design firm up there, and it stands for Design, who's a phenomenal design firm. And I remember talking with them, and they're like, hey, like, you got some talent, but you need this type of education. And I was like, wow, okay, well, I can't put in years because I got to provide for my family. Like, I'm a husband now. So I kind of thought about it. I was like, man, I really want to coach. I really want to teach. I really want to have an impact on my life like I had from my coaches and my teachers. Like, if it wasn't for my coaches and my teachers, like, my life would be totally, totally different today. And so that's what I need to get into. I need to invest in the business of affecting lives in a positive way. So I got into education. And it's just amazing that I've been able to have the jobs and work where I have. Coached at North Marion High School down in Hubbard. Coached at Tualatin High School. My first teaching job was at Newburgh. I coached at Tualatin and taught at Newburgh while I was there. And then ended up getting this job at Glencoe, coaching and teaching. And just being able to work with the amount of people that I've worked with has been a crazy, crazy, crazy blessing. Last week, I got a invite to a Zoom wedding for a kid that I coached. He was a center for me at Tualatin, was a heavyweight wrestler that I wrestled with him every day. He was a state placer, and wanted to make sure that I was there at his wedding. You know, one of my quarterbacks that I worked with, I didn't coach him, but I mentored him at North Marion High School. I remember, man, I'm on the bus going to Harefield, my first game as a head coach, and I'm on the bus. I get a text message, and it's a picture of him with his newborn daughter. And it says, hey, coach, said, I haven't talked to you in a while. I just want to introduce you to my daughter. Thanks for everything you've done. And I was like, that's what it's about. Like, that's why we as coaches do what we do. We don't do it for pay. We don't do it for accolades. I don't want my name on some stadium somewhere, anything like that. Like, I do it so 20 years from now, people can say, you know what, like, that dude had an effect on my life. To wrap it up, going back to Dr. Cross. Dr. Cross passed away when I was in college, and they had his funeral set, and the mortuary or whatever that he was supposed to have the ceremony at called the family and said, hey, we can no longer hold a ceremony here because we've had too many RCPs. There's too many people coming. And so they said, okay, well, thank you. So they would try to move to the high school, move to the gym of the high school, and they couldn't hold it because they couldn't meet the capacity. Ended up having his ceremony at Long Beach City College's football field where my high school played football. And it was packed, 5,000 people strong there at his memorial, just to honor his life. And I was like, man, if that doesn't tell you you did something with your life, Like that's fantastic. So yeah, that's why I got into teaching and coaching, man. And it's fun to be competitive and win and do all that stuff too. But having the invites to the weddings and the pictures of babies sent to you and big momentous parts of their life, or kids reaching out to you when a tragedy strikes, a parent passes away or something like that, and you can be someone they can rely on. That's definitely why I do what I do. And hopefully my children see that and they understand that that's what their goal should be in their life, and have an impact on the world around them.
Yeah. That is so powerful. Thank you for that. All the time we think, I know as coaches, I'm a teacher and a coach as well, and we think sometimes and some days it's tougher than others to remember what you're there for, what you're doing, and what you mean to kids. And when you get those wedding invites and you get those graduation party invites and those types of things, you're right. It makes it all worth it. It's not about the money, but it's about creating a community that is all going in one direction together and hoping that you can have an impact on that community. So thank you for bringing that up. It's so important that a teacher's job and a coach's job is so much more than just showing up, but planning how you're going to mentor those folks. The next question that I wanted to get into, Coach, and we're kind of winding down on this podcast, maybe this and maybe one more question for you. But talk about when you took over Glencoe as a head coach. Prior to that, I believe you were the defensive coordinator the year before, and you'd worked with Glencoe for a couple of years, and you took over as the head football coach. What were you looking at? What were you getting yourself into? And what is the vision that you had on day one? And has that changed at all now that you've been through it for a few years?
Well, I've been blessed to be with a couple different programs, and I remember my second year at Tualatin, I was the D-line coach there, and we ended up playing in the state championship, lost to Aloha High School when they had a running back named Thomas Tyner, who was phenomenal. And I remember losing that game, getting on the bus, and I always wanted to be an assistant coach. I don't want to be a head coach. Like, I don't want to deal with politics and all that different type of stuff. And I remember sitting on the bus going home, and I was like, man, we just played in the state championship, and there are so many things that we could have done better throughout the year. There are so many things we could have done better as a program. There's little structural things, little practice things, things that I did in college, things that my high school did, that if we would do those things, not like scheme-wise, just how we ran our program, like, maybe we would have won that championship. Maybe our guys have been better. Maybe our guys have been ready, So I started questioning myself in that sense. And so at that moment, I said, okay, well, I want to be a head coach. I want to take my knowledge and put that into a program, try to build it. When I took over Glencoe from Coach Fanger, it was nice because I'd already been in it for a while. I wasn't coming in fresh, and I didn't know the kids. I knew who we had. I knew we had come back. I knew who could do what. I knew what was coming up in our youth program. I was ready to roll. But the biggest thing that I feel we struggle with today as coaches is getting our kids to trust. Getting our kids to trust us, to trust our processes, and to understand that we are not selfishly motivated. We are not doing this to, like I said earlier, get the accolades. Like, we're doing this to help them at their lives. Our program philosophy is to use the game of football to create better future partners, parents, and contributors to society. And that's the ultimate goal. When we get done with this, when you walk around campus, you have a Glencoe football, or you have a Glencoe Letterman jacket and there's a football on it, or our teachers going to look at you and be like, yeah, that's a fine, upstanding individual right there. Or they're going to say, oh, it's a football kid. We have so many stereotypes for years and years and years as athletes in general that, oh, well, you're a football player. Oh, well, you're a tennis player. Why is a tennis player different than a football player? You know what I mean? Like, but there's these stereotypes that are built in. And so my goal was to tell our kids, first and foremost, that you are going to be an upstanding individual, and I'm going to hold you to that standard. Secondly, you are going to be held to a standard. Like, it's not going to be, I'm going to say this, I'm going to give you lip service, and then when you end up messing around in the class, you're not going to get a consequence. And that was probably the hardest reality for our team and our culture, is them realizing, oh, like, he is going to put his finger down. Oh, he is going to hold me accountable. Oh, he's going to jump on me when I mess up in class. Oh, the principal's going to call him instead of my parents. Like, you know, and getting that culture change has been huge in terms of not just building trust, but letting them know that I care about them. Talk very openly and say, listen, we talk about substances, like, substances hold a really, really sensitive part in my life. So I'm going to help you. But if you do something to get you in trouble, I'm going to get you in trouble, because I had to get trouble to realize I was doing something stupid. I had to make the mistake and get held accountable to realize that I needed to make a change. Now, if you come to me and you talk to me, you say, Coach, I'm struggling with this. Can you help me? I will bend over backwards. I will do whatever I can to help you. But you got to understand, if you make the choice to do something that warrants a consequence, you're going to get that consequence. Because we all know, if you don't enforce a consequence, what does the next person say? Oh, well, he didn't do anything anyway, so I can keep doing whatever I want.
Right.
And you can't do that. That was the biggest thing. The exciting part is now, going into year 3, I feel, maybe I'm naive, but I feel that my kids know that. I feel that my good kids who want to work hard, who want to get after it, they feel comfort in that and know that they can do what they want. They don't have to worry about the pleasing aspect. And the kids that are still messing around are doing it on eggshells, because they know that if I catch them, it's their backsides and I'm going to get after it.
And to continue on with that thought, how are you using your kids that get it to mentor the kids that do not?
Man, it's just like parenting. I mean, I can go tell my kid to stop, but if my older son goes to my younger son and says, hey, we can't do that, he's going to be more apt to listen, because there's that relationship that they have built. And that's one of the things, man, I've been reading Phil Jackson's book. It's called like 11 Rings or whatever. And it's phenomenal, but he talks so much just philosophically about how to work with people and how to work in groups. And he says, man, I can tell Michael Jordan something. He can tell me to, F off. Or I can tell Scottie Pippen that, or Dennis Rodman. But if I can get MJ to go tell Rodman this, it's going to have a bigger effect.
Exactly.
And that's the thing is, number one, man, we have a football player right now that is just a phenomenal kid, 4.0 student, class president. I mean, is the dude you want to build your program around. And I feel that he trusts me because I talk to him about everything. Why in the world we run cover 2 right now, coach? Well, this is why, because they're running the under route, they're running this, and da-da-da-da-da. Oh, okay, that makes sense. And I have to talk to him, because if I don't talk to him, say, well, this is what we do, he's not going to trust me. But if I explain it to him, and I get him to the point where he says, well, shouldn't we be in this situation instead? You know what, man? That's a good point. Next time we come up to this, I'll try it, but if it doesn't work, we're going back to cover 2. Okay, cool. Coach, appreciate it. And we'll get to that point, So, but now with that being said, I can send him a message like, hey, man, we got to get on this kid. He's not showing up for workouts. Got it, coach. I'll take care of it. And he can go about it his own way, but I've also been teaching him for years about how he should and shouldn't be doing it. He's not, you need to show up for workouts, blah, 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 because he knows that that's not how I'm doing it. That's not how I'm interacting with him. So that's how we kind of take our vets and put them in a situation. Also, we understand in our program that it's not about, I'm a senior, you do what I say. No. Seniors, they're putting gear away. Seniors, you're doing this. You're going to get your gear first. You're going to have the perks that you get, but freshmen aren't on the bottom of the totem pole because they're freshmen. Freshmen are on the bottom of the totem pole because of experience, because they don't know it yet. But how you treat that freshman is going to dictate what they're going to be like as seniors. And we will not have demeaning 18-year-old kids putting down freshmen or sophomores because, oh, rookie, you're this and that. No. You do that, I'm going to put you in your place real quick. Because I can flex on you like that anytime I want. Because I have more clout in this game than anybody here. Said, but I'm going to serve you. I'm going to serve these underclassmen, and I'm going to put myself below them to let them know how much I care about them and their future and their investment.
Real quick before we close this thing out, what are some, as we relate sports to business often, and I've often found that there's so many direct correlations, what are your suggestions for those folks that are either A, starting a business, B, they're currently in a business, but they're struggling a little bit, or C, you know, they've been in business for a while. Like, what are the things that you've learned specifically in the game of football that translate over to business?
I was a business minor at U of O. So I got a little bit of background in the education of it and stuff. And one of the biggest things that I saw that I took from my business background in college and my athletic experience and being a coach and everything like that, now and being a father, being a husband, like, I think the biggest thing you need to understand is you will lose. Like, you're going to lose. It's going to happen. Like, there's very few people in this world who have never lost out on a job interview or lost to somebody else. Like, you go into an interview, you got to understand, like, you're probably not going to get the spot. Now, be confident enough that know you're going to get it. But when it comes, it's not like, oh, I'm a horrible person, I can't do this. No, suck it up and go for another job interview. You know, when you drop a product line, okay, I got a new t-shirt design. I'm going to put this one out. I'm going to put it out to the world. Let's see what happens. You got 2 views, 1 purchase. You wasted $800 dropping this product out in the world. It's like, all right, well, now you got to figure out how to bounce back from that. Like, how are you going to not lose another $800 to try to get back up to a profit so you can be successful? Maybe you shouldn't do what you're trying to do anymore. Maybe you're not a good designer. Maybe you need to take the money and go hire somebody to design for you. That'll help you be more successful. But if you are in a constant state of evaluation, that's where your success will come. You can't get too cocky or confident to be stagnant. Again, you know, going back to Phil Jackson's now kind of in that world right now. Like, hey, you won 6 championships. Congratulations. You've run your course. We're gonna part ways now. All right, well, I'm gonna go win 7 more championships with the Lakers. Like, right. You know, you look at, like, okay, well, why is this happening? What have I been doing? And that was one of the things I was talking to my wife about it. She said, you know, why is Phil Jackson so cool? Like, why was he so successful? I said, he was constantly evaluating himself. He learned at 45 years old. At 45 years old, he had done so much studying that he had the wisdom of a 70-year-old. And he knew how to reflect upon himself and say, I suck at this. I'm not good at this. I need to fix this. And I think that's something that we get as athletes that we can take to the game as teachers, coaches, obviously as business people too. You know, I can tell my wife, who's my business partner, like, we need to spend money. If we don't spend money, we're not going to make money. I know, but it's so hard to spend $300. It is hard to spend $300. But when we make back $600 and we pocket the $300 on top of that, it's worth it to spend $300. Oh, I know. And so that's the thing, is you're going to take losses. You're going to take failures. You're going to, you know, get to the point where you doubt yourself. That's where you have to really sink your heels in and figure out if you have confidence in what you're doing, or reevaluate and see how you can still do that same path with help, with assistance, or with altering your path.
That's great. Jake and I, on another episode, we'll be talking about those exact topics, how we fail quickly, consistency. And there's a lot of just some of those topics that it's not a specific, it's a mindset skill. I tried to say that it wasn't a skill. Like, having a tough mindset is a skill. So thank you very much for that. Lastly, talk a little bit about your company, Local Patriot Apparel. Give yourself a nice little plug, and then let all the listeners know where they can find you on social media.
Awesome, man. Yeah, I appreciate it. So Local Patriot Apparel is an apparel brand that my wife and I have started, and it started from the concept of, you know what, like, in our world, people need to be part of something greater. People need to be part of something bigger, whether it's an athletic team, whether it's a neighborhood function. It's just important for our mental state to be part of something. And something that we all have in common is the nation that we live. And so we said, well, how are we going to make something that says that? And we settled on the brand of local patriot. And our mantra is, how do you serve? I'm not talking about like, hey, do you like wear T-shirts that are American flags and, you know, go to rodeos on 4th of July, which my family does every year. But like, you know, how do you serve your nation? Like as a teacher, like you serve your nation by teaching, by sacrificing for others. Our police officers obviously serve the nation enforcing laws. Our Amazon drivers serve their nation by being able to provide us things that we need. So everybody serves our nation in a different way. So let's change that mindset to be like, well, how do you serve your nation? How do you serve your culture, your surrounding? The term patriot doesn't necessarily have anything to do with government or political parties or anything like that. The term patriot is a person that represents their nation, like their land mass, their surrounding. So in Oregon, how do you do that? So we started that as a brand, and we got off right off the bat, and actually haven't had enough time to actually settle and establish our brand yet, because we mainly provide custom apparel pieces, whether it's clubs, teams, team gear, sweatshirts, hoodies, t-shirts, tank tops, whatever. We do all the design work on our own, unless you bring your design to us. And then we go through and print your stuff, set it out to your teammates, your team members, parents, whatever. We do on-site apparel printing. So we've worked wrestling tournaments where we have the design for the tournament. We put that on the front of the shirt, and kids can get their weight classes added, everything else. Same thing at track meets and all that. But we're going to be launching at the beginning of June, in a couple of weeks, our actual brand. We're doing it real small right now. We got an Etsy shop that will be set up, Local Patriot Apparel. But we're going to kind of get a push for 4th of July and have some 4th of July gear. We have some states, state of Oregon that has the American flag inside of it, state of California with American flag, state of Washington with American flag, and then a bunch of other patriotic gear that people can rock on 4th of July. Hopefully, if some of this stuff cleared out, we can go out and be together. We can rock some local patriotic gear and represent our nation and our local area, state.
Yeah.
Awesome. Very cool idea. I love the shirts that you've already cranked out. So can find you on Etsy, Local Patriot Apparel, and then social media. Do you even have personal social media? Or are you just running everything through most of the Glencoe strength and conditioning stuff? You're so dedicated to what you do. It's almost an extension of yourself, the weight room at Glencoe, the football field, et cetera.
Man, I got far too many social media accounts. I have Tide Strength, which is our weightlifting account on Instagram. I have Glencoe Football. I have Glencoe Track and Field, which is our track page on Instagram. I have Glencoe Throwers, which is our specific Instagram account for our throwers to get them recognition in college recruiting. We have a couple phenomenal college athletes right now in our program. I have my own personal Instagram account, also Reynoso, for my family and friends and stuff like that. I have Metro Lineman Challenge, the Lineman Challenge that I've put on out here in the state of Oregon for the last 10 years. Unfortunately, it's canceled this year in year 11, but it hosts about 30 some different schools around the state, 350 plus athletes, and it's a world's strongest man meets a NFL combine where kids get out as teams and flip tires and lift weights and carry weights, run 40s, do vertical jumps and everything else, and they compete as a group. So I have that one that I run. I have Twitter accounts, all these things as well. So I just kind of go hard and do a whole bunch of different things.
You have so many that they can't find you, but you've got definitely Tide Strength and Glencoe Football are definitely some of the most active ones. And the Lineman Challenge that Coach Reynoso runs each year is a phenomenal event. Those linemen just light up when they're out there competing.
It's been pretty awesome.
So with that, I'd like to thank Coach Reynoso for being our first interview on the Against All Average podcast. He didn't even know what he was getting into, but hopefully he dropped some absolute gold for you guys. This is someone who stands by what he says. He puts his heart and soul into everything that he does. wakes up early, goes to bed late, and is an amazing husband and father and community member. So thank you, Coach Reynoso, so much for being a part of this, and our listeners are going to absolutely love this episode.
Thank you guys so much, man. It's been a huge blessing to be able to kind of share some stories, and I'd love to come back sometime later and get a little more specific with some stuff. But yeah, man, I appreciate you both very much.
Absolutely. With that, another big shout out to this episode's sponsor, Fame Pro Services. And with that, we thank you for listening to episode 2 of the Against All Average podcast. We'll see you next time.